Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome here if you're new. The more I think and talk about Islam and make videos and just think about it day to day, really, I've come to realize that Islam's so-called greatest strength is actually probably its biggest weakness or Achilles heel. If you've ever spoke to anyone in the Dawah scene or read anything about Islam online or heard people proselytizing about Islam, you've probably come across the argument before that the Quran is the verbatim or absolute word of God and it's never been changed. The Quran is perfectly preserved and it's basically absolute truth. Now, for Muslims and for Islam, this is a flex. Like they think this is, as I said, a good thing. Probably its biggest selling point. I mean, is there anything more impressive than having the ultimate truth? But as they say, you got to put your money where your mouth is. The reason I'm bringing awareness or making a video about this selling point of Islam specifically today is because if you think about it logically and just honestly, this is a really fast way to see if Islam is true or not. Let's start from the first premise because basically, this is a claim it sets for itself. We're not claiming that it's never changed. This is what they're telling us about their religion. So it's setting the stage to be judged, really. I mean, if you're going to put yourself out there like that, you're going to get feedback. First of all, when you observe humans and life in general, things are constantly in motion, things are constantly moving. Every baby that's born is a fresh new set of DNA. Genes have reshuffled themselves again, and a completely unique human is born out of all the billions of humans that have come before us. And not just that, our ancestors who are, our hominid ancestors and our ape ancestors before that, all life forms on this planet are a constant reshuffling of DNA and genetic information. And every living creature then born with this unique set of genes then interacts with an environment that's constantly changing as well. So, as I said, life is constantly in motion. The only constant really is change when it comes to living creatures. When we have a book that's telling us that God, the all knowing God of everything, okay, the creator of us and everything else, okay, he decided to choose one specific point in time to make us try and live like, to emulate the standards and values of those people, to emulate, to copy the ways of that culture, that's of the specific culture of the time where Islam emerged from. I mean, everything about it is just stagnant. There's no other way to describe it. It's okay to draw inspiration from periods of time, but to completely try and live your life as someone from 1,400 years ago, it's pretty much impossible. We don't live in that time anymore. I'm not from that geographical region. So, what does it have to do with me? And why should that be my standard to live up to? Sometimes in Islam, you'll get people who will respond and say, Dawagandis, who will just say, look, God can do whatever he wants because he's God. Even if it doesn't make sense to us as a human, then God is God, he can do what he wants. So then it begs the question, well, what does it say about his character? He's trying to trick us, he's trying to fool us. He puts life in one certain way. He sets life out to follow a certain pattern. Then he makes humans as pattern observers, animals that have evolved to notice patterns in our environment and around us, then confuse us and trick us like some psychopathic maniac, sadistic person watching from up on high. And then it also goes back to the argument, well, if that's the nature of God, he's tricking us. Because when we look around us and we notice certain things, like things constantly change, it makes no sense to choose one period of time and to have a book which is absolute truth. And then, as I said, if you say, well, God is God, he can do what he wants, he's allowed to test us in that way, well, then I will just go back and say, well, he himself claims to be merciful, the most merciful. Once again, a lot of superlatives here in the Quran. God is supposed to be the most merciful, the most kind, the most loving. Do you think it's kind and merciful and loving to trick us, to test us in this way? It's not. It's contradictory to his nature. As I've said in previous videos, okay, he can be whatever he wants. Once again, he made the claim that he is the most merciful, and this is not merciful behavior. And I know because there's an emotional attachment for so many of us to religious beliefs and ideology, fear kicks in because you can actually see truth, ironically, staring you straight in the face, or that innate knowing, which all of us have. But that's why I say there's times in your life where you have to trust your intuition. It's gotten us through so many experiences in our life without us even realizing. It's actually helped humans to get to where we are right now, obviously, alongside our logical skills, but the intuition that humans possess and other animals, never underrate it. It's so important. And let that be a guide, like in this case, to see how this argument is so illogical. It's morally wrong. And so many other things that just make it, that just show you that this is not its biggest strength. This is actually its biggest weakness. I say this as well because I know the selling points, I know what people hear. And I also want to kind of highlight this for non believers or people who've never been Muslim. You need to know that the claim that this is ultimate truth, unchanging, absolute truth, this is what the ideology promotes and teaches: superiority over all other ideologies. And that's not my opinion. It's literally in the Quran. It's probably the most fundamental aspect of Islam, in my opinion. I think it's at the crux of what it is. There's no room in Islam for second guessing, for submission. Everything is totality, everything is dominance, everything is this is how it is, and don't you dare question this. I mean, think about it. Claiming to have absolute truth. What's that going to make you view everyone else as? How's that going to shape your view on the world? How are you going to start interpreting other things? I know because I was once there myself. I would see things that unnerved me, didn't sit right with me, but then I would fall back to, well, I guess this is the truth. This is ultimate truth. And like back to my original point, it's not a healthy way, in my opinion, to live. Sticking to one belief system and not allowing your brain to be open and almost fixating on a time period, on people who lived so long ago. Yes, there's parts of human culture, elements of human society that, is pretty similar, but a lot of those things are tied to our biological states. Things like, owning camels, living as nomadic people, these are things that are not relevant to someone like me in a city in 2025. It's just not relevant to me anymore. And I can relate to this experience also as a woman. I'm expected in the eyes of God to cover up, or I'm expected to allow my husband to have so many rights over me, and for me to basically just be a subservient, obedient wife to him and not to question that authority. Or again, slavery. It was acceptable back then. I'm not saying it was never right, but they did have slaves. What's worse, they had female sex slaves. They had female slaves which their male owner could do whatever he wanted with without any resistance. In our modern times, that's abhorrent. It's outlawed in pretty much every modern state in the world. It's a practice that, thank God, is no longer commonplace. And most people now agree, most sane minded people now find slavery to be a very dark chapter of human history. We've moved on. Thanks to that constant evolution of life, we now know that that is not something that we should ever allow to reoccur again, because there's no justification for it. Yet, this all knowing wise God chose a time period and a geographical location where slavery was commonplace. And if we try to bring forward moral arguments against it. You're pushed back as saying, well, this is the absolute truth, apparently. This is the ultimate way to live. As I said before, the proof is in the pudding. We can see what's better for society, what's worse for society. And when we act on that, you can see things improving. You can see our lifestyles getting better. I've mentioned before, another area where you can see how constant change and growth has drastically improved human life is in the area of modern medicine. If it wasn't for so many intelligent, brilliant minds trying and testing different types of medicine, surgical practices, while sticking to the scientific method for an inquiry of how things work to come up with the most effective solutions. And that's the beauty of things changing and things developing. And that's the evidence of it. Before anyone says, oh, show me the proof, show me the evidence, because I know there's going to be people saying it, bring the facts to the table. Well, there are the facts there for you. Just look around at your modern lifestyle. All of this is thanks to change and growth. This ideology claims that its biggest strength is that it never changed, it's never grown. It is what it is, and it's down to you to accept it. And it's down to you to ignore everything you know to be true. After all, Islam does mean submission. This is something I feel is important to highlight because use Islam's own logic against itself, everything starts to fall apart. I actually think it's much smarter to have a text, a scripture which is inspired by a higher entity, was written by humans who accepted that they were fallible. And it's not hidden that it's written by humans, and it never claims to be stagnant, frozen in time. It's actually smarter to say, look, this book is inspired, is open to interpretation, and because that actually mirrors what it is to be a human. Shouldn't God be appealing to our nature in order to teach us, in order to connect with us, seeing as he's a higher entity, the highest entity or source in the universe? He is the source of everything. He should know how to connect to us. He should know what's best for us. And as I say in other videos, just look at your life. Love is a massive motivating factor, if not one of the greatest motivating factors in our lives. And alongside other elements like peace, it's something that most sane-minded humans strive for. And love and peace are at the heart of so many people's motivation in life and at the heart of surviving in general. And I truly now believe that if there's a higher power, if there's a God, he's going to appeal to our better nature. He's not going to come across as some sadistic psychopath who just watches his creation suffer, be tormented, while he sits up there and judges us, knowing he put us in this impossible test. Everything in my life has told me now that it's the most less likely situation if there is a God. And I think as humans, there's so much power in tapping into our own nature, into goodness. It's important to push back against these selling points, against these sound bites and logical fallacies, because for too long they've gone on unchallenged. And I think the internet, as I always say, is pushing back. And I just think it's wonderful. And I just think the more we talk about this, the less power it has. The ideology which wants all of us to submit can't stand up against truth and the ability for people to share information and use their better humanity to get the conversation going. So as always, I come with this kind of warning, I come to give people a little outside view to say, like, this, in my experience, was not a healthy way to view the world. Also, it doesn't reflect reality. And that's very important. It doesn't reflect reality. It doesn't reflect the nature of life and other things. And to finish off this video, interestingly enough, Allah claims in the Quran that there are signs for those who believe. And ironically, those signs in nature negate the validity of the God of Islam being the true God. So guys, that was my video, bringing you something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and it's kind of been swirling in my mind because I've been talking about this a lot and I've been discussing this, and that's why I like when I make these videos or read on certain things, watch certain videos, because it gets the thoughts going and it gets ideas kind of popping into my mind, and it kind of brings it all together where I look at, right, where did it go wrong for me? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys found it useful. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video and you want to see more. And yeah, as always, I wish everyone the very best, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.